joining us for our presentation here. We are actually going to look at technology and the use of it with global virtual teams. So how many of you actually teach? A few of you? How would you like to be able to expose your students to other students from all around the world? And on top of that, introduce them to a variety of different technologies. Yes? Welcome to X Culture. X Culture is a platform, or I should say an organization that allows students from all around the world. There's approximately 5,000 students that participate each semester from over 40 different countries, and they work on global virtual teams with other students from around the world.
Currently, I am working with my students on the early track, and my students are placed in 5 to 7 virtual teams. One student actually is working from somebody from Botswana, Bangladesh, India, Ethiopia, Colombia, and Sri Lanka, currently right now. And she's right here in Miami, and she's actually Colombian. So
what this does is it exposes students to different opportunities to communicate with each other. So they need to identify a way to connect. They are basically connected initially through email, and everything is conducted in English. So from that point on, they get to... Thank you. Can you hear me? It is on. So from that point on, they work with real businesses to identify a challenge that's been proposed. They select from about 8 to 12 different companies, and they're actually able to work together to create a proposal to submit back to the company at the end of the project. Throughout this time, it's 8 weeks, they actually do live webinars with the organization, so they get exposure using Zoom technology, Skype, things of that nature. They do surveys every week based on their peers, so they're being evaluated as well as evaluating each other. And then they need to figure out how to do the research, how to compile the reports, and how to present it all at the very end.
So how it works in the classroom. Every week there is a deliverable. So once the business challenge is proposed by the organization, they brainstorm as to how they're going to deliver each one of those deliverables. So for example, week 1 was coming up with a background, the historical background of the organization. And the team of 7 students have to do their own research. Then they come together and put together this deliverable. So they upload it on Friday, and also at the same time when they're uploading it, they're also peer evaluating each other. Those peer evaluations are collected and distributed to the faculty that are actually using that number to grade their participation points every week. So imagine every week there is a deliverable. So first week would be background, second week would be market research. I think we're on our 3rd week, and we're actually looking at the product and the competitive advantage of our product. Let's talk about the shared technologies or shared resources. So one of the core values of X Culture is to be able to make this affordable and accessible even to our poorest students. So for example, I've got one student who has a partner who's in India, and she says, Dr. B, my partner, she's just like wild because she always has to go from space to space to try to find Wi-Fi, free Wi-Fi, and she will just pop up randomly throughout the day because somehow she has free Wi-Fi and she wants to push out her message to me. And you know, what I said to my student is, isn't that wonderful that for you, Wi-Fi is a luxury, and for her, she actually has to go out and search for it so she can send you the material for her to be able to upload her work. And it really does give an opportunity for our, we are fairly rich in this country, and it gives us perspective as to how much more other students from other countries have to work in order to get their education.
And it's interesting to see how the students take certain applications that we have here in the US for granted. And when they start working with some of these other students from around the world, they'll find that there are other applications out there that either they've never heard of or that they're exposed to for the first time, or that there's applications we use here that are not allowed to be used in other countries.
Exactly. China, one of our students is in a team with a student from China. Everything that she sends to this student is delayed 1 or 2 days because the Chinese government, of course, you know that they regulate the technology that goes in and out. Also, what we've done, we have huge databases where we collect data from all of our teachers, all of our students, and we use this a lot for research. And what we found was that there were 3 basic sources of technology, open source technologies, that our students have a preference for. So Google Doc is one of them. That's where they like to work on a written platform. And then for texting, they like WhatsApp. And then for social media, they like closed Facebook messages, closed Facebook pages. So, and predominantly throughout, I've been doing this now for 5 years. Throughout history, those have been the 3 predominant technologies, open source technologies that they've preferred to use.
It's also interesting when the students start to be exposed to some of these other places where it's not okay for a female to show their picture or to be on Facebook. And so now they have to find workarounds if they've originally elected to do a group meeting through Facebook or things of that nature.
I swear we did not rehearse this. She has one thing, I have an example, but this is my example. So Nikija Attico, one of my students, comes to me and says, Dr. B, I have a student, I don't know if it's a girl or a guy. The Facebook is like just a silhouette, but she will only, or this person will only speak to me and won't speak to anybody else in the team. And I feel, first responsible to get her material out, but at the same time, I don't understand why she's only choosing to speak to me. Eventually, we found out it's a girl. Second thing is, we found out that she was from a UAE country where she's not permitted to speak to a male. And then the third thing was she comes from a religion where having her photograph anywhere was like forbidden. So, and Nikija is the kind of student who was, she's from the Caribbean, she's very boisterous, she's, opinionated, and she grew so much from that opportunity for being responsible for pushing out the information for this other student who couldn't do it for herself. I mean, and for all of us, because we also have a quality circle, and we share our experiences on the first hour of each class, talking about what we learned culturally and, organizational dynamically from this experience of working virtually with students from all over the world.
And that's a good segue to kind of look at some of the things our students take away from being part of X Culture and the project in the classroom. One of it is personal growth. I actually do a reflection at the end of my class. We do reflections, discussions in class, but they do a written reflection at the end of the semester to kind of reflect back on what they've learned throughout the term. And one of the opportunities is to talk about their experience with X Culture, which almost consistently comes up in their reflection and how much it helped them grow personally as a person, an individual.
Culturally, I actually am the international business professor, and my research is on the dimensions of culture. And I have seen students become so empathic towards other students from other cultures. I've also seen them, like one student I always tell the girls, I'm like, you have to be careful because you will get propositioned all the time. And I have one student who actually came to me and said, Dr. B, one of my classmates already offered to marry me. Because like being an American is like a golden ticket to so many countries around the world. Other things that they have to watch out for, but also things that they can learn from each other, like access to resources. I tell them, Indian students, if you come from a low caste, low income country, be careful of, like how you explain how you live, because some of these students don't have electricity. They don't have running water. They don't have toilets in their houses. So be mindful of how other countries live and think about how you explain yourself to them, because I mean it could be perceived as being, you know, a braggart. And that's why I think I really like using X culture to teach students, because I can't teach them that. They have to experience it. And they can see, you know, I always tell them it's through other people's eyes that you get to see who you really are. And if you see where they live and compare it to where you live, all of a sudden you have a projection, right? Like they're here and I'm here, and if I want them to get to here, this is the kind of information that I have to share with them. So maybe they have access all of a sudden to that knowledge and that education.
So I don't actually teach international business, but I do use this in my class. I teach here at FIU. I'm an adjunct for the hospitality school, and we have a global learning component in the class that I teach. So that's where X culture fits in, and it actually does expose students to those experiences from around the world, that global perspective. It brings them into a different mindset when they're looking at, I teach marketing, when we're trying to work on market research or putting together a marketing plan that needs to apply to different cultures around the world.
The global experience? Okay, so we have what you're learning right now is just like the top layer. There's so much to X culture that can benefit not just the student, but also the faculty, right? We have hackathons where we collect so much data. We've had several dissertations that have come out from our data sets. We also have conferences. So I'm going to one in October where the students who cork up to the top 20%, and now you're talking 5,000 a semester, 10,000 a year. We do a 2 to 3 year look back, so we have a 30,000 population pool to collect data, and also to invite the corked up students, the top 10% of the students, to participate on an on-ground X Culture project. So it's a 1 week, this one is a 4-day challenge. It's affiliated with the Academy of International Business, and students get invited to apply. They don't get invited to be selected. They get invited to apply. And from this conference, we pick the top 50 students to participate on an on-ground version of X Culture. And they come together. This time we're going to San Antonio, and they will meet each other for the first time. And we're talking, they're coming from Bangladesh, from Bhutan, from Ghana, from Mali, from Peru. Amazing. Then one of the other things, and I actually was the one who developed this, is I came up with a global business week. So I piloted it 3 years ago, and this is where Dr. Andre and I actually started to collaborate on this. She was actually my boss at Johnson & Wales University, and it was the year that I piloted Global Business Week. It's 1 week long. Again, those students who cork up, we invite them to apply, and then we choose the top 150 students to participate on a global business challenge. We get a local company that will pose some really good business challenges, and I happen to be very good friends with one of the Seminole tribe members, and Hard Rock was our business challenge. They gave us 4 really good challenges in anticipation for the Guitar Hotel, and 150 students, 32 countries, 35 faculty, 200 people altogether. 1 week we met here and we worked on this business challenges and the amazing, amazing opportunities that coming from my perspective, the view looking down and the growth that I saw in 6 days, amazing. So that was the pilot year. The second year, we thought, okay, let's take this to Europe. So I had a colleague, I made a phone call and I said, hey, would you like to do this thing that I do at the University of Macerata, Italy? And he's like, Leilani, we live in a medieval city. It's very hard to get here. And I thought, you know what? What better opportunity for students to experience what it's like to live in a medieval city for 1 week? Dr. Andre got to go to that. And it was amazing. Have you ever lived in a medieval city before? Like, our gala was in a palazzo that was actually built in the 1500s. This university that we were participating in was opened in the 1500s. It was really an incredible experience. But again, the growth opportunities that these students have and how you got to see them grow in that 1 week is tremendous. Last summer, actually, this was just a few months ago in July, we actually hosted Global X Culture at the University of Calgary in Canada, right at the week of the end of the Stampede. So what we did is we invited students to come pre-conference to go to Stampede. And I don't know if you guys know about Stampede, but Stampede is the largest rodeo in the world. And all of a sudden, in that 1 week period, everybody in Calgary become cowboys. So everybody brings boots, and we got white-hatted by the Calgary community. Again, amazing experience. We took them up to the mountains in Banff National Park. We got to see a mother and her 2 cubs. We got to see grizzly bears. And you're talking about kids who have a lot of the students that came to us have never even gotten on a plane before. It's their first time. They're 18, 19, 20-year-olds. It's the first time out of their country, and here we are, we're taking them to Banff National Park. And this coming summer, I'm watching my time, this coming summer, so 2020, we are actually being hosted by the Singapore Management University, one of the top universities in Asia. We are already so far ahead of schedule, and we're doing it in conjunction to Academy of International Business World Conference. So faculty are going to go to the World Conference, and then they're going to come to us in Singapore to do X Culture. Again, we are anticipating sold-out seats. We only have 200 beds. 160 of them are reserved for students, 30 for faculty, and then the rest. We run this with a very, very skeleton crew staff, and we have a lot of students who are also training up to be our global ambassadors. So there's a lot of pieces to it, and not enough time to really describe the whole thing, but X Culture in itself, I think, is a huge, what was that word that he said, that he used? I said, we were going to use that word, disruptor. It is a huge disruptor in the way that we teach in the classroom. And 50% of my grade is from that. And I tell my students, if you're going to take me for international culture and protocol, get ready, because you're going to get the ride of your life, and you're going to get the education of your life. And once you drink the Kool-Aid, you're never going to want to stop drinking that Kool-Aid.
And it is definitely an experience for the students. At first, they're typically excited. I have used it a few times in my classes. They're excited. They want to get to know these other students from around the world, and then they get immersed into the project. And it's a little bit different story. Now they're dealing with different time zones, which is usually one of the biggest challenges. Typical group challenges: who's the loafer, who's the leader, who's submitting their work on time. And then they kind of get to the end of the project, and they realize what they've accomplished and what they've completed throughout the past 7 to 8 weeks. And it's just an amazing experience. Now, when she's talking about the global conference, this is not part of a class grade. This is something these students opt to do on their own, and many of them fund the project or fund the experience as well as travel on their own. We were fortunate to be able to take 2 FIU students to Canada this past summer. Absolutely amazing experience for both of them. They've made friends that they'll have for a lifetime. They learned about different parts of the world and different cultures that there's no way they could have possibly experienced just sitting in a classroom. So if you're interested in utilizing this in a class, it's basically $250 per class to participate. However, if you really can't afford it, They're pretty lenient. Vas Terrace, Dr. Vas Terrace, is actually the founder of this project, and he is very much about open resources and sharing and bringing people together and collaborating. So if at any time a dean or a department chair will not support this, but your students would still like to participate, he's more than happy to help make sure it happens.
And he's even open to, let's say that you have a student, you're not teaching the class, you have a student who wants to do it, you can take that student and tag it along to another class, and that's completely okay too.
And then as Leilani mentioned earlier, there's a lot of research opportunities for faculty. So they do at these global conferences, they also have faculty that get together, can work on collaborative projects. They collect an incredible amount of data. And again, it's open to those who are going to use it ethically and will actually present it so that others can learn from it. So I've had the opportunity to participate in a couple of those as well.
So I don't think that I even told you yet, but 2021 is actually going to come back to Miami. And we are looking for a global host, so I see that there's some leadership in the room. So if you guys are interested in having X Culture on campus, that might be a good talking point for us. Do you guys have any questions? I mean, like, I'll give you my business card. We can talk about it later, but any general questions? We have like 9 minutes. Yes?
Business challenges. I'm wondering if there's construction companies involved.
We are so open to all companies. The only challenge that we require is that you are a global company, that you actually either source from international or that you go and provide your services, your products internationally. Yes? Is that good? Oh.
Totally unrelated. You did mention that the students come out of pocket for travel and stuff. Who funds your global week and such things?
So as chairperson, I get the privilege of having a heart attack every time the budget comes out. So what we do, and again, Dr. Andre was my boss, so she got to watch me have a lot of nervous breakdowns. But from the very beginning, my vision was to make it so affordable that even our poorest students could attend. You don't have to be rich, you just have to cork up. That was my philosophy. So in the beginning, when we piloted it, what I did was I took a look at the cost that I was going to have to expend, do a cost analysis. And then we put an additional $100 on top of that for flexibility. So our first conference that was 1 week long that provided housing, breakfast and lunch, costed them $600. Housing and lunch for 6 days, okay? And transportation and all of the activities. In Italy, it was $895. Again, all inclusive. They only had to pay for 3 meals. And then in Calgary, it was also $895. So now I'm in the process of putting together the budget for Singapore. Now in Calgary, I paid $27 a bed. Singapore is going to cost me $72 a bed. So I'm in the process of figuring out, again, trying to keep it as affordable as possible for even our poorest student. So the students actually have to raise the money. What I've told my students, I told them if you want to come with me to Singapore, there are 19 of them, 3 will probably place. I'm not going to tell them that I want them all to try, but 3 will probably place. And then it's basically a race to go to registration, fully paid for. And I'm anticipating around $1,200 per head. Yeah. Not inclusive of airfare.
So you were talking about one of the X-Culture experiences in a class where there was a collaborative project, a woman from UAE who another classmate was giving voice to that person's ideas.
Yes.
So when you think about those skills that cannot be replaced by machines.
Absolutely not.
You're thinking creativity, empathy, and collaborative. Did
Absolutely.
that ultimately become an outcome for the course itself?
Well, the course is International Culture and Protocol, and the outcome is that you have to come up with skills that demonstrate empathy, collaboration, cultural awareness, cultural intelligence, and I mean, there were so many components that were hit just by participating in this engaging activity that I didn't even have to teach them anything. They just talked about it in the classroom.
But talk about an assessment opportunity. Here you had it actually being expressed, and you would be able to leave an artifact
Absolutely.
of outcome achievement.
Absolutely.
That's pretty cool.
But the even more beautiful thing about this is that this student was in the beginning very defensive, very, almost had who suffered for a little bit of entitleitis. We know students who did that, right? And in the end, she became so understanding and so patient with this student because now she realized that Nikija was experiencing freedoms that she was her birthright, and that there was this girl in some part of the world that couldn't even speak to another boy because it was forbidden. I mean, that, I believe in God and the universe, and I think that was predestined. It was the way that she needed to learn this lesson.
And then there is also data that is collected. So they do a weekly survey, and with that weekly survey, sometimes there's additional questions added in to support research that faculty members are interested in doing. So there are a lot of different components that have been already collected, especially around teams, around leadership, and then the big five personalities. So they do have data that will also support many of the things that we have seen visually in the classroom take place.
Yes.
So are the deliverables the same across the different projects? So is there a sort of a template for how each week will go so that the companies that are offering the challenges will know how things are chunked out? Yeah. Okay.
So this is how it works. I brought 2 companies to Dr. Tara's last year. And as soon as the company signed on, we wrote a business challenge. And then from what they wanted to learn, the company, we wrote basically a benchmarked deliverable and what criteria had to be met with each one. So that, let's say that this is your classroom. You guys had 7 business challenges to choose from. You chose that one business challenge. You are doing the same format as the business challenge that they're doing, but that your students are doing it here, but the students from the UAE are also doing it in the same way. The students from India are also doing it in the same way. And what's nice about that is you can cohort all of those students and collect the data and extract it. And what's nice about that from a company's point of view is you can see how students from different continents are actually approaching and solving that problem on a weekly basis.
And it's all designed with a very detailed rubric as well. So the faculty that are grading these different reports at the end of the semester are also grading it based on the same criteria.
I just wanted to know, this is geared mostly towards the undergraduate population, or is there grad students that participate as well?
Grad students can participate as well as professionals. And they've just recently, over the past year, introduced an X-Culture Academy for students who are between the ages of 10 and 17.
Yeah. It is a huge interrupter. Huge.
Disruptor.
Disruptor. So I was actually talking to Voss about this the other day, and I'm like, Voss, do you think we should have a university? Like, can we have a university someday? Because I think this is a better way of teaching students than, sitting in the classroom.
But I think our time is up, so we're welcome to stick around, though, if you have any questions. Our contact information is up here, and we also have business cards if you'd like them. So thank you very much.